Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dragonmount. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors over at Tor Books, as well as all of you lovely folks who support us on Patreon. If you're not already supporting us on Patreon, consider going and signing up. Every dollar that you donate goes to making the show better and making sure we can give you the best content possible. Now, I would have said that I'm your host for today, but I am not your only host for today. We're going to be talking about the Deadline article that recently came out and apparently the Bonkers season 3 that we're going to be seeing. But I'm going to be doing it with a great friend of mine who you may recognize. Not only am I doing this video by myself today, I'm with a lovely other human being, Crystal.
Hello.
Hi. So the first thing I want to talk about the article, and I want to see if you think the same thing. I think finally, yes, it is like a really bare bones, like high level description of the show. But I really kind of liked the description in this article of the very first paragraph of the article. What about you?
Oh my God, no, it was fabulous. The line that stuck out to me was talking about a member of a potent organization of women. I was like, yes, like that makes it sound powerful. I feel like so many of the articles I've heard them referred to as like witches or things that are more derogatory. And these women are badass. So
yeah, I feel like they always try to like make it negative when they mention the Aes Sedai right off the bat, and it's like, yeah, you're showing your bias a little bit there. Though while this one is probably one of the better ones, I did want to just reference one of the ones that came out in like 2019. This is from Variety. Yeah, okay, I wrote it down. It's from Variety. I'm smart. All right, so this one from Variety compared to this one here. So it's based on Robert Jordan's best-selling fantasy novels. The Wheel of Time is set in a high fantasy world where magic exists, but only certain women are allowed to access it. The story follows Moiraine as she embarks on a dangerous, world-spanning journey with 5 young men and women, one of whom is prophesied to be the Dragon Reborn, a powerful individual who either save humanity or destroy it. The series draws on numerous elements from European and Asian culture and philosophy, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism. Like, I feel like they threw the Hinduism in there just because of the rebirth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. It's not that it's, I mean, I don't think that's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would decide to watch a show because of that.
I don't know that. Yeah, like, I agree. Like, I definitely, if I read that, I'd be like, eh. Like, the only thing that would grab me from that would be like Dragon Reborn, high fantasy, only certain people can use magic. That's interesting. And then, like, you know, that the fact that they pull from real world cultures is interesting. But like, it doesn't.
I would say only that they say certain women. Like, that's maybe all that.
That's true. Yeah,
grabs me about that because it's women.
That's fair. But like, I don't know. Like, if I knew the Wheel of Time, or if I was involved with this, and like this is what you chose to sell our show, this was the thing, I would be like, yeah, no thanks.
Great. Let's fix that.
But yeah, no, I definitely think this one was good. So that's right off. I feel like we started off on a good foot. Now, for those who haven't read the article, go read it. I'm sure it's in the description somewhere around this video. But there's also a interview that Deadline did with Davinia Lamont, who is the lead makeup, hair, but makeup also encompasses prosthetics and stuff like the Trollocs and things and wounds and stuff like that. So a lot of people don't understand when you say makeup, it means a lot more than just like, you know, makeup. And then Sharon Gillam is the lead costume designer, which, if you know anything about the Wheel of Time, costumes, pretty big deal. Then they have Rosamund Pike, Moiraine, Daniel Henney, Buttrock, Landman Dragonmount, and Rafe. So Rafe Judkins, showrunner of the Wheel of Time. And for some reason in this article, it only lists him as executive producer, and I got a little scared, like they stealthily like fired him as the showrunner or something. I went and checked. No, they didn't. But this article, for whatever reason, only lists him as the executive producer under the like picture that they had of them. So yeah. Anyway, they start right off the bat with Moiraine talking about one of the big things that she liked about the way they ended season 1 and how they started season 2 with Maureen and Lan's journey in particular. So what was like, as someone who's read the books for a long time and knows them in and out, what is your feelings on like Moiraine and Lan's relationship overall in season 1 and season 2, and then like how it's depicted and the diversions from the show? I mean, from
I'm always from the books. I knew what you meant. No, I'm always the person that I'm not mad about the changes that happen in the show. I think the water bond is something that is so pivotal to the books, and it was going to be really hard to relay on screen. Like, all that takes place in your head. It's a feeling. It's the descriptions that the Aes Sedai are saying to us through the words. You can't do that on screen. And so I thought the way that they illustrated their relationship was really beautiful. Like, you understood that it was a pivotal part of what not only made her stronger, but him as well. Like, that they were a tighter unit when they were together. And so, yeah, no, I was really happy with how they showed it in the show. And I didn't care about, are we book spoilers? Are we fine to?
Yeah, I think we could.
I mean, I guess it's not going to spoil. It happens. The same thing happens in the books as well, just in a different way. And so I think bringing that up in the story kind of plants that seed. I suspect we see that happen maybe to other people later in the show. Like, the first, when we saw that happen so early, I was like, oh, I bet they're going to use this in the series a little more than they did in the books.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And then, real quick, we'll put like a spoiler tag in the beginning. I guess let's say spoilers for like book 1 and 2, because I feel like season 1 and 2 came out and they cover book 1 and 2.
Okay.
I can catch you if you. So don't worry about it. I'll catch you if you're bad, because I've been paying attention to this for a while now, specifically for that. So you'll be good. And I think
I should be okay. Books 1 and 2, because I just finished book 2, so I should be.
You'll be better at it than you think you are once we actually start talking about it. But anyway, so yeah, I totally agree. I like how they've tried to depict, because it's hard. A lot of the Wheel of Time takes place inside our characters' heads. Perrin is the
all
best.
of Perrin.
Yeah, there's a reason why we work well together. But the specifically the water bond, and specifically the relationship between Moiraine and Lan, I think, is a special one, and it's hard to show how comfortable they are with each other and how close they are with each other and how much they actually care and how much emotion they have for each other without having that. But I think they did it in a good way, especially in season 1, where it's like, obviously, if you know nothing about the Wheel of Time, the Water Bond, Aes Sedai, these characters in general, you would probably assume, like a viewer may assume, that Moiraine and Lan's relationship is romantic in nature. Like that's just a fair assumption to make, especially when you see them taking a bath.
Hot tub scene, anyone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say the hot tub scene.
Lan's butt is just fantastic in that scene. But as you grow to watch the rest of that show, and you start to see more and more of their relationship, and you realize that it has nothing to do, there's no sexual nature in it and no romantic nature in it. The fact that they're taking this bath together, the fact that they have these kind of like, not inside jokes, but like shorthand in the way they speak to each other, is the way that they're depicting that comfortable feelings and like thoughts that they would have, where they understand each other's emotions, where they know what each other is thinking, where they understand each other's boundaries and things like that without having like to be verbal with it. And they just did that in like a few scenes in season 1, and I think that was really,
I've always thought of it like twins. Like, you always see kids who are twins, like they always just have this kind of unspoken connection where they can see each other from across the room. And that's always what I've thought of with a water bond. It's like having your twin, your other half, just outside your body.
That's a good description of it too. I like that. The other thing that she mentions about the water bond specifically, so this isn't in the article, so like some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about happens is in the article, in the body of the article, which is really the article. Someone watched the interview and then wrote the article on it. But there are things that they cut out of the video that appear in the article. Specifically the title of this article is not in the video. Like, Rafe never says that in the video, but he obviously has said that because he's quoted it. And then there's stuff that's in the video that's not in the article. So one of the things that she mentions in the video is she describes the water bond. And I don't want to say like it's canon now, boom, like hammer my gavel down. But like I feel like she's kind of confirming this. Like, why would she say this unless she knows it? It's not like she we know she didn't read the series before, so it's not like she's like hugely a Wheel of Time nerd to where she'd know the functionality of the water bond. This must have been told to her. So like, and this is something that she's allowed to talk about. So she says specifically, she talks about her and Lan's relationship together and the water bond. And then when she mentions the water bond, she says, the water bond does more than just allow the water to go longer without sleep, allow them to see better in the dark. She says see and hear in the dark. Not that that makes sense linguistically, but I know what she means. So like, I feel like that's a way of kind of confirming that that's what the water bond does in the show. Like, we didn't know that for sure, but now we do. We know in the books it makes them a little bit stronger. It makes them to be able to sense shadow spawn. We kind of got confirmation for that in the show, where in season 1, Lan kind of feels like he failed because he didn't sense them. He says that. And then in season 2, he says he's unable to sense the Murgil because he no longer has the bond. So there's a lot of other things there, but getting that confirmation I think was cool. And the fact that she mentioned it, either being like purposeful or just like a slip of the tongue, was nice. So I liked that. I like when they just drop lore. I like that a lot.
Well, and I think they handled it in such a way that it wasn't like they were just spouting it at you. They were just, it's hard sometimes to get those things across on screen. And so I thought they did it in a great way.
The other thing that she mentioned specifically in the video is how they take the diversion from the books where they, take Maureen's power away. And she says the same thing that many people have, that I have, that I'm pretty sure I heard you say, that a lot of other content creators have said as well, is basically it's a storytelling device. And the way she says it is, Rafe made the very clever decision to take Maureen's power away in season 1, which is a diversion from the books, but you think to yourself, how do we deepen the understanding of these characters? How do we get under their skin? You take away their crutch. For Moiraine, it's the one power. So she's stripped bare now, and she can't take the easy solution out of situations, which is, like obviously using magic is, I guess, would be an easy solution. So I feel like, and tell me what you think about this. So I always thought like they're not going to sideline Rosamund Pike for season 2. And if they
absolutely not.
Exactly. And if they followed book 2's storyline, it would be very few scenes for Moiraine, because she's in like a half a dozen scenes before the end of the book. Like we see a couple of shots of her at Adelaide's and Van Dien's house, and then a little bit of traveling, and then at the end of the book, and that's it. And she's your headliner. She's your biggest, thing. You can't just put her in 2 scenes. So they had to make a story up for her, but also this was a great way to, again, deepen the understanding of the character. Did you think that actually, the one question I wanted to ask you is, what did you think of, did you immediately know what Maureen meant when she said, like, we're not at the same level? Like when he was like, do you not think of us as equals?
Oh, absolutely. I think most book readers did. Like, I've known this woman for 21 years. Like, I feel like I have. And so I just knew that as a human, she was never going to mean that she was above him. She's never felt that way about herself. Well, maybe she did when she was younger, growing up. But no, I knew from the moment it came out of her mouth that she meant that he was better.
Yeah, that she was being self-deprecating there for sure. Honestly, there was a lot of really great scenes in season 2 that I liked, in particularly just for like cinematography and stuff like that. But one of my favorite ones, and she talks about it here when they were filming it, was their reuniting. When they break the shield and she's able to channel again, and then when they're on the beach and she rebonds him, like that was an amazing scene.
It was gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
And finally actually being able to see like a depiction of a water bond being placed on somebody. I thought it was, I feel like they made it like deeply like emotional, but also not like romantic in any way, but it still came off as like deeply, deeply, deeply emotional and personal, which it should
be. I think that's what I love so much about their relationship, and it being kind of the featured relationship in the show right now, is that it's not of a sexual nature or romantic nature. These are just 2 people who have a a common goal, like a shared goal, male and female, that are working together. And I think that's really powerful to not, for it not have to go the way of other shows where all of those male female dynamics are, you know, so romantic.
And there's not even a question of it. It's not even a hint. It's just like, it's an assumed thing. Like everyone, like, oh, yeah, obviously they're just, you know, Warder and Aes Sedai. Like, it's not like an assumed thing. I think
it makes that moment even more beautiful, though.
Oh,
like when that wall comes down and like they're face to face, like, oh, I bawled like a baby.
How close these two are. Yeah, me too. Not as bad as Hopper, but it was rough. It was rough. The other thing that her and Daniel both mentioned specifically in the video and in the article, there's a bit of it, is that I wouldn't call it a set, where they filmed, because it's not a set. That's actually,
it's a beach.
Yeah, in Morocco. Did you look up how to say the beach? I didn't look it up. Like, how does it pronounce?
Dakhala?
Yeah, Dakhala.
I listened to her.
Like
Dakhala.
Yeah, it's like Dakhal or something like that. It's beautiful. It is a very beautiful beach.
Beautiful, like Dakhala. But yeah.
Daniel mentioned that there was no infrastructure there for filming. It was either Daniel or Rosamund who mentioned there's nothing there because no one's ever filmed there before, which is going to be a theme. Never something having been done before is a theme apparently for Wraith. We'll get to that in a minute, though. But yeah, nothing had been filmed there before. It's a very secluded area. So one of the things they had to do there was the waygate that's actually there is there. That's not computer generated. The waygate is a physical object that they place there. Daniel Henney described it as a 75-foot tall actual structure that they had to place in the middle of the dune with a crane. And Rosamund Pike interjected that they had to get permission from the king.
I was going to say, I felt like that was like a very big deal for them to get permission to be able to do that.
Yeah, from the king of Morocco, because that's a thing. For anyone who's been to Disney, you'd know that, because the king of Morocco had a hand in designing the Morocco pavilion there, which is interesting too. But yeah, no, the Moiraine and Lan's stuff, I mean, forget about Rosamund Pike and Daniel Henney. Like, they're amazing actors. Daniel Henney also talked about how personally for him, it's been great. Did you watch Criminal Minds? Did you see him on Criminal Minds?
I was not a Criminal Minds fan, no. I think I watched like a couple episodes.
So I liked the first couple of seasons of Criminal Minds because Mandy Patinkin was in it, and I just love him, and I love him a lot. And you should follow him on TikTok because he has a TikTok. Yeah, it's really his son filming him, and it's hilarious. But he joined Criminal Minds I don't even know, after season 10. So Daniel Henney says something that I think is really cool, and I think it comes out in the way they act in the show, which is he's always wanted to be part of a show from the beginning so that he could feel like, it is his, like he's part of it, not that he's joining someone else's crew. And he said for this, it's been like for filming in the Wheel of Time, like he's like all of us together, and we he's had that feeling with everybody, and I think that comes out in the way they act, honestly.
No, this whole cast has just been really incredible. And I feel like people who've hated the show still can't hate the acting. Like, I've not heard too many people other than the casting when it first started, but now that they've seen it, everyone says how brilliantly it's acted. And I think it's because they care. Like, all of them invested in the fact that there was, big or small, this dedicated fan base to this series of books. And I think they see a huge responsibility in that. I've always felt like they have so much respect for the people. I mean, this is a huge book series that a lot of people, us included, have invested a lot of time in. And I just feel like they've always been really respectful of that. Every interview I've seen, every article, like, they've been fabulous about that. And it shows on the screen. I hope if everyone gets past season 1, like when they start watching season 2, opinions changed. And I saw it a lot online as people started to feel better because you could just see like where this ship was going, like where we were headed.
Just to clarify, like the only things that I really had problems with in season 1 were things that were just completely outside of their control. COVID and an actor not returned, like a main actor that appears in every single episode, in the majority of every single episode, just not returning midway through the season, and then having to like rewrite the entire season and rewrite the entire show because now it changes large portions of everything. So like, other than the financial stuff that COVID caused and the stuff around Barney leaving, I liked it. Like I liked every part of it. And I think they made up for it as best they could with the story, but like obviously everything looked better once they didn't have the surprise financial crap that they had to deal with from COVID. Like the One Power looks beautiful. The costumes look better. One of the big things that everyone said was like they never changed costumes throughout of all of season 1. I'm like, well, they didn't have a lot of money.
They were poor village kids traveling.
Oh yeah, it's true. They were also traveling on the road. It's not like there's a Target every 30 miles that they could stop at.
I had my issues were the end of the season, which obviously were the things that were rushed. But the more I've seen it, and the more like as we went through our rewatch and we watched it in its entirety, the more I appreciate it as this whole new vessel. And even those parts that I'm like, that's a little bit cringy to me, for lack of a better way to put it. It's moved the story forward, and where it went in season 2, and I hope where we're going in season 3, like brings me back into that feeling. Like I felt like, I think I said this, season 2 was coming home. Like I felt like we were back in the books. Like it all made sense. Everything was weaving its way together to where I could maybe see where we were headed. And I hope that's what we're going to get with season 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. It feels like they're actually laying groundwork for story that's going to come up, instead of like that first season was like very thin, because it was just like, this is the story we could tell with what we have. And now it's like you could see them laying the foreshadowing that we know from the Wheel of Time, and I like that. But to get back to what you mentioned about the people behind the show and how they obviously care. So Rafe said, and I think I agree with him. He said, like, to quote, for me, it's always about trying to bring to life the best that we can. And I think everyone in the show is really invested in doing that and getting behind that vision. And I agree. Like every time I've ever heard him speak of it, every time I've heard Guy Roberts speak of it, and I mentioned them two specifically because they were big fans prior to this show ever being a thing.
Yep.
Rafe grew up reading the books with his mother. Guy discovered them, early on too when he was a kid, and is just a fantasy nerd. So that's cool. Yosha has finished the books since the show has started, since he's gotten the part. But I think the three of them, other than Sarah, obviously Sarah Nakamura, are the only actors or crew on the show who have actually read the entire series. Everyone else has, taken the parts that they need to and done their research. But hearing them talk about it, you can hear the love of the world and the care that they have for the show. And I like that a lot.
Yep.
The one thing that I do want to mention, though, is Rafe says something in passing that I guess, as a jaded Hollywood person, something that he deals with all the time, something they all deal with all the time. They actually kind of all laugh about it, but I was like, that's horrible.
Not funny.
Yeah.
Not funny.
So they say there's so many people out there talking about the show, whether it's terrible things like killing you. They're very often things that we have to enjoy, all of it, I think. And I'm like,
Friends, listen. We are statistically the best fandom. Stop it.
Yeah, stop.
Like, what are we doing? That. You don't have to like the show. We don't threaten to kill anybody.
No,
God,
just
social skills.
Yeah,
social skills.
Like you want to see somebody who, like, I will talk to people all day about people, like with people that don't like the show. That's perfectly fine. You can have the opinion not to like it, but I hate when people say things like it is bad. Period. Like that is your opinion. It is my opinion that it's bad. I don't like it. Like say those types of things. And also, there's no need to be toxic, like threatening to kill people.
No. There are better ways. You know what? Flip them off and move on. You don't need to threaten death on anybody.
How should I describe him? My co-Thom, I guess. He's Thom from Twatcast. So there's Thom, Jono, and Joe. Yeah. He is not a fan of the show at all. But even he, like you mentioned before, he's actually said, like, I can't gripe the acting. The acting's great. I can't gripe the costuming. The costuming's great. But he just doesn't like the way the show's going with the story, which is perfectly fine. But he does it. He says things like respectfully, and he makes a lot of jokes and stuff. I mean, that's their shtick, and they are funny. But like, there's a way to do it, and then there's a way to be kind of shitty about it, and there's no reason to be like that about a TV show.
This world's a very serious place, and these things, these actors, these people are supposed to be bringing joy, levity, like passion, sometimes anger to our lives. We don't need to threaten them. If you don't like it, don't watch, turn it off, move on with your life. Go read the books. They're still there.
I was angry when
the audiobooks.
Oh yeah. Oh man, the audiobook and Rosamund with the audiobooks has been fantastic.
I came home, so I sat down after Jordan Con and had a wonderful conversation last night with some people. The very last night we were there, and instantly came home and bought the Rosamund Pike audiobooks because I was like, oh, this is another new way for me to listen
So
to it
good.
and to hear it. So.
Oh, speaking of, I don't know if you know this yet. Did you know? So Rosamund Pike, obviously, she's doing the books. I think they've done. I don't know if they've released book 3 yet. Did they release? Maybe I don't
I
know.
only saw 1 and 2.
Okay,
One
I
and
know
two.
they released 1 and 2. Yeah, her mother is directing the book. So she's like in the booth recording them, and her mom is directing them. Like that's something that's her mom's like it's part of her profession or whatever. Like I don't know exactly what she does, but her mom is directing the audiobooks. I thought that was fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But no, she's been great. I haven't listened to the second book yet. I listened to the first one, and she like obviously, I mean, she's a good actor, obviously, but like, you know, you don't think, okay, you're a good actor, but you're going to do like be a good voice actor. But obviously you have to be, if you're doing acting, you have to be able to have this kind of vocal range to do emotions. And she doesn't do like voices, like impressions when she's doing the other characters, but you can tell when she's doing another character is the best way I can describe that, I think.
What do they call that? Oral storytelling. I've only listened to the first, I've listened to the prologue and I'm through chapter 6.
Okay. So you've heard
of her
multiple
version.
characters and stuff.
I've heard, that whole art form is just really amazing, and one that we've talked about I didn't dive into until recently, and it has fascinated me how different these books feel being told orally. And so that's what I urge people to do, is just take them all separately. Take the audiobooks, the regular books, the television show. All is just a different way to absorb this world.
Mm-hmm. And it's another way. I've said this a lot, but it's just another way for us to be excited by new Wheel of Time content again.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever it was, 2016, 2017, when A Memory of Light came out, we thought, or no, it was earlier than that. It was like 2013. Right? Yeah, 2013.
13? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, no, it was.
Whenever Memory of Light came out, we were all like, all right,
how do we do this without Gnome? How do we do this without Gnome?
I know. Yeah, without Gnomon Garden here, I don't know how we live. But you know, we were like, oh, this is it. There's no, you know, that was the last book. I know people who only finished the last book like when the show was announced, because it's like, oh, there's going to be new stuff, I have to finish this now, because like they just didn't want it to end.
I read every book that came out. So I started, I'm trying to think. So it was in like 2000 when I started reading the books. 2001, I think, was that Ice Storm. So I read every book as it came out, and I would finish it in a day. Like I would take off work, whatever in life. That book took me almost a month to finish, and not because it was so long, but I would just get sad. I would be like, this is the last time I'm going to hear this. This is the last time. It was so hard. And I have still, to this day, I've read that book 1 time. That is the only time I've read it, because it was a finality and an ending that I wasn't ready for. So quite honestly, they could have put complete garbage on the screen and I would have probably just eaten it up, because it was another entrance into the world. And luckily it's not garbage, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it
is fantastic. This article's got me so psyched for season 3.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things specifically that they say in here that have gotten me like really excited. We've covered a few of them already, but the others are Rafe and Rosamund kind of accidentally say a couple things, or acts of purposely. Yeah. So I call, when I have to like put my book down for a minute, I call that putting it on punishment. I only had to do it once for the last book, but it did take me like a little over a month to read that book too, because I did like I would get through a chapter or partway through some of the chapters that were like hundreds of pages long and be like, holy shit, this is just too much. I need to take a break. There was only the one time that I had put it on punishment, though. I'll let people try to assume what that is. Daniel Henney also mentioned something that I want to bring up, because I don't think a lot of people realize how much work goes into, even like, it's not small, don't get me wrong, Daniel Henney, but like he's a beautiful man, but like it's not something that you immediately think about when you think about the Wheel of Time, and like the work that goes into it, the acting, the set designs, you know, stuff like that. He talks about, so he says, the idea of having so many demands, whether it's dialect, stunts, research into the books, the actions or the physical stuff, or where you have to take your shirt off so you're dieting for 6 months. This is a show where you really have to step up your game as an actor, and that's been my favorite experience so far. So The bit there was, you have to take your shirt off so you're dieting for 6 months. I was like, what? That's insane. Like, that's insane. I feel bad for him. Like I want him to eat a sandwich. Like, you don't have to have 0% body fat, man. Like, don't get me wrong.
You would still think he's beautiful.
It's true. I would.
You know.
Yeah, I would. And it's not just his body, it's his mind too. I just like his voice is great. His acting
and I will
is great.
say, like, I was never attracted to Lan in the books. And so being attracted to Lan on the show it's nice. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I don't know. He just always came off as like grandfatherly to me, and he doesn't feel that way in the book.
He was too serious. He took it just a little bit too far for me, and I feel like that's where Daniel Henney like has brought more life. Like, he was stone, and they talk about that a lot in the books, that he was stone, and I feel like he showed that he had a wall, but he still was just a little bit more of a fully formed person than maybe Lan was at the beginning of the series.
But and I think that goes back to what we were saying before, where it's like, so if you pay attention when especially with Lan, and Moiraine too, though, they let their guards down and convey more emotion and things like that when they're alone, far more often than when they're in public, like, or out amongst the other characters. And I think that's the way of Rafe and the directors and stuff like that, showing us how they're caged and guarded in public, but when they're alone, here's the closeness of their relationship. Because, you know, there's plenty of times, like you said, where like Lan is stoic and stone, but then we get the view from inside of his head, and, you know, we see that he's not really just emotionless. So that would be boring on TV, though, like, because you can't get that inner thought. You know, it would be kind of silly if he just
you can get to know him. You can't invest in him that way on a television show. You'd be like, oh, he's gonna die, no big deal.
Yeah.
See ya.
Like, if he just didn't speak half the time and like just had no facial emotion, like, you would be like, this character stinks. And it would be silly if we just had disembodied voice, you know, speaking occasionally. The other thing that they talk about is how for season 2 and beyond now, they've assembled like an amazing team other than the actors. And specifically, they mention Sharon Gillam and Davina Lamont. They both have very good resumes. Davina her resume, though, is long. She's been doing television for a long time, since like 2001 or 2002 or something like that. But she's done many, many, many things. So hair and makeup on things like 30 Days of Night, which is an interesting take on vampires, but it's a vampire movie with a lot of makeup and a lot of gore and a lot of injuries. And she was one of the on-set prosthetics people for that, which is crazy. And she did Avatar, like Pandora, the Blue People, not Avatar, The Last Airbender. She did the Sherlock Holmes movies. She's done X-Men movies. She's done Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies, being lead makeup and hair. So like, she's got an extensive resume and many, many awards, which is like, when I got the chance to interview her, which I think is on the Dragonmount thing. I was actually her and Sharon at the same time, which was really nice. Talking to them, I was like legitimately like a little bit like intimidated, because I was like, oh my God, you're so good at what you do. Your talent is so big.
You've done so many things.
Yeah. They were really cool. And listening to the two of them talk in this interview was really interesting, because, and especially knowing what they had said before and how they so greatly enjoy working together on the costuming, particularly, and the hair. So when I talked to them, it was just before season 2 was coming out. So they talked a lot about Kyrian and how it's influenced by like feudal Japanese and I think like 13th or 16th century France, and how the two of them kind of worked together to juxtapose the hair and makeup and clothing of both of those countries and eras together. Like, sometimes you'll see partial French braids with like a Japanese bun with like hair sticks in it. And then you'll see like a French ball gown type lower part of a dress with like a kimono almost looking upper part of a dress, and like the same thing with like makeup and everything. And it was, and the way they played off each other with that was really cool. Though for this article, Sharon and Davina both mention, one, how Rafe would come to them and say something like, Davina, for instance, would say, the most challenging and rewarding was the Shanshin. But I would have Rafe come up to me every year and say something like, I want a braid that's never been seen before on television. So it's like, okay, we have to film in places that have never been filmed before. We need hair designs like we've never seen before. And then Sharon Gillam said, like, she was talking about how rewarding it's been to work on the show, but she also interjects where she's like, and Rafe, I think, also came to me and said something like, I want the Shanshan army to look like an army never seen before. And Rafe jumped in and said, oh, it was even worse than that. I welcomed Sharon to the show on her first day and said that it was great to have her. And it was like, okay, so for the first week, you're going to be building the Shanshan army. And we want it to feel like it's part of the Wheel of Time world, but also alien in the world. Good luck.
Hands go.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a theme with him. He just wants it to be like, I want this never seen before. I want something that's never been done before, which is kind of funny.
But I think that shows his commitment. That shows how committed he is to like really bringing this alive, because that's what Jordan did, is took these influences from all over the world but made them something new and made them something different. The costumes on season 2 were out of control. They were so incredible down to the smallest detail, and it was everybody's. I mean, the Shanshan were, as Rafe says, effing terrifying.
Yeah.
But all of the costuming was fantastic. So much of what Rosamund Pike wore was just
All
phenomenal and intricate and detailed. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Think about that. You have all these women, sometimes 10 women on screen at one time from all of these different nations, and you're having to show that they are all of one body. They're all Aes Sedai, but then they're all very different too. I thought that was beautifully done. Beautifully done.
There's 2 particular scenes where I really, really like seeing it. And it was the courtyard scene in the White Tower, where they're having like their little meeting, and you get all the Aes Sedai. There's some Aes Sedai from the same Aja there, but obviously vastly different either stations in life or just the way they want to present themselves, and different cultures because their dresses are completely different. And then there's the party scene in Kyrian where Rand and Celine go to the party, and you get all the Kyrian nobles there. It was seeing all the different things was just really, really cool. Sharon Gillam obviously had a large hand in both of those scenes, in both the courtyard scene and the party scene. And she specifically talks about, she says, to quote her, "This show is a dream for costume designers. There's so much scope and information in the books and from Robert Jordan." And obviously, like, the running joke is like, this man can describe a dress in every which way.
For 17 pages, he can describe a dress. Yeah.
Hey, that's great for a costume designer.
Right.
But she talks about also how they mash up cultures, and how like she gets to then play with that. And she specifically mentions, and this is something that I forgot, because and I went back and checked, and she obviously was right. She's not going to say it if she's not right, but like, I just didn't remember. She mentions how the Shanshan are, I knew this, Imperial China, but also Mesoamerican, which for the people who don't know where that is, it's Mexico and Central America, like native indigenous people. So like, think the Mayans, the Incans and Aztecs, and like the indigenous people of those areas. So if you go and like look up what their clothing and armor and stuff looked like, and also Imperial Chinese armor from like, the more ancient stuff, that's the Shanshan. That's the way the Shanshan looks. So like a lot of the gripes people had about their helmets not being insectoid-like, they're heavily leaning more toward the Mesoamerican stuff with some of it.
That was very Mayan. When we talked about this, there is a lot of Mayan armor that looks like that, and I never made that connection. I've been to a lot of the ruins down in Mexico, and oftentimes they'll have performers. Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite things to do when I travel. I'm a very tactile person, so I have to go to places that'll let me touch things, like to be able to touch the walls and stuff. But they'll have performers kind of dressed up to help you kind of get into the world. And I never put it together until you said that. But yeah, a lot of that armor looks like what you'd see, down to even the vibrant, sometimes contrasting colors on the costumes too. Yeah. It's not just the styling, but in the color that they bring forth.
And then the funny thing about that is, specifically with like the coloring and the fashion and the style, is she said she's also brought like real world fashion into it. And like Rafe let her bring some other stuff. She said Lady Serath's costume was influenced by Alexander McQueen, which is like a famous dressmaker.
Oh, yes.
Some stuff, yeah. So, yes. The other thing that Rosamund specifically mentioned is how working now with Sharon and Davina, and how they've expanded the scope of the show, it's Rosamund specifically mentioned something that I wanna quote her on, because I feel like this is where it's going to start really giving us either. This is like the purposeful accident of mentioning things. So she says, "The world has exploded open. The characters are no longer in this one small band. They're now going on separate journeys, and there's other characters involved in other worlds and other cultures." So other worlds. How many other worlds do we go to? We go to the Tel'aran'rhiod. They go to Portal Stone worlds. They go through the twisted terangrial doorways. So is this kind of her way of telling us that might be what we're seeing?
Oh my gosh, that would be so exciting.
Yeah.
That would be so exciting.
So obviously, the article, The Wheel of Time breaks down season 2 beach scenes, teases Bonkers season 3 start. Yeah. So Rafe doesn't mention it in the video, but it's obviously taken from that interview where he says, "The first 15 minutes of season 3 is one of the most bonkers set pieces I've ever seen on television." So
that was all I saw before I read the article. Like someone had pulled that quote like immediately, and that's all I saw was just that little blurb before I ever read the article, and that was so exciting. Because for him to say it's bonkers, like think about his standards and who he
especially
is.
What we've seen before.
Yep. Yep.
With in season 2, like we had Heroes of the Horn, we had that fight in Atuan's Mills, we had the fight in Fal Dara itself. Like there's been a lot of crazy stuff. So
I feel like season two redeemed itself on the battlefront with all of the battles. That was something in season 1 that was perhaps a little bit lacking due to COVID and all of those other things. The battles in season 2 were incredible. They were absolutely captivating. And so if that's how we're starting season 3, that's exciting.
I hesitate to say it, but I feel like it's fitting. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, as in a way where it's like season 1 and book 1, their scope was very small. And as book 2 and book 3 and book 4, and now season 2 and season 3, the scope gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and in every aspect, in the characters, in the world, in the governments, in the cultures, in the fighting, especially with the One Power. As the characters learn more and more, the scope of it gets bigger and bigger, where we're not just pushing Trollocs and holding them back with air. They're doing crazy things like killing all of them, an entire building with a thunderstorm that happens in the building, and like things like that. I want to hear what you think about what this could possibly mean, but there's another little piece of the of information that they let by, which I don't think I've seen a lot of people talking about. But before I mention them, this could possibly be a spoiler for up to book 4 for some of these. So if you don't want to have parts of up to book 4 spoiled for the Wheel of Time, it's been nice talking to you, and we'll put a little thing up on the screen and we'll take it down when it comes back. So if you want to mute us and come back, whatever, but from here on, there may be spoilers for book 4. Anyway, so the theories that I've seen are the War of Power, which is obviously, so that's the fight between Lews Therin and the Forces of Light and the Dark One, after the boars drilled back in the Age of Legends. The coup in the White Tower, which is when Elida deposes Swan and they split the White Tower. Leandrin and the Black Sisters stealing the terangrial from the storerooms. I feel like that's not big enough to be. It's
not big enough, yeah.
Bonkers and the craziest thing on season 2. And just the other one that's more likely than some of the others I saw were Forsaken introductions. Now that we know all the Forsaken are free, I wouldn't put it past them just to cold open with like introductions to 2 of the Forsaken, which could be both. Like, maybe we see Samael and like we see him in the War of Power fighting against Lews Therin and Trollocs behind him, and then cut to the now version of him wherever he is. Like I could see them doing that.
There was another quote? Did that not go with like the open?
No, it did.
Of the
that's
show
what I was
where they were
mention.
talking.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what.
Yeah, the rest of the quote was. Hold on, let me read it for everybody. Where is it? I got it. It's right here. Okay, so the rest of the quote was, "I was watching it this week, and it's absolutely bananas what our team pulled off. Just a bunch of women in their 40s and 50s shredding each other, and it's wonderful to behold."
I mean, doesn't that sound like it's the coup? Like, where are we going to have so many women?
Yeah, that's the only thing that I could think of, that it's the deposing of Swan, and possibly they play up like, you know, some sort of fight within the tower more so than we saw in the books, because in the books we don't really see a lot of infighting in that scene. It's really just Min and like Logain and them like running away.
Yeah. But also, what's beautiful about this is it can be absolutely none of those
It's true.
things.
Absolutely could
Like,
be none of those
Rafe could
things.
have something else entirely up his sleeve that's not going to mean anything until later on this season. You know, that's what I love about this whole journey, is we could all be wildly wrong,
If
and it's
there's
something new.
if there's one thing I know about storytellers, and having done like the guest services thing with JordanCon for so long and working with authors, they love messing with the audience. They love dropping information like this that is absolutely true, but it subverts everything that everyone thought it was. They love
Yeah.
messing with our heads, and I love that they gain enjoyment from that and listening to our nonsense. But yeah, no, I think like taking it.
Maybe that word, like, yeah, you want to pick it apart. Like, which part of that phrase is the most important? The bunch of
I
women,
know the bunch
the
of
fact that they're
women.
shredding each other in their 40s and 50s.
50,
Like,
yeah.
what should we be focusing on? But yeah, right now my vote until we see it is, yeah, when Suan Sanche is deposed in the tower.
Yeah, I think if I had to rank them like in order of possibility, I would say the coup number 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you think?
The Forsaken, probably
The
too.
Forsaken, and then like the
I
War
think
of
it's nice.
Power.
War of Power. Yeah.
And I don't even think the Leandrin thing really ranks in there, honestly. As something.
The Black Dodge is there in the show. I don't think, as an audience, as someone who doesn't read the books, they're invested enough in that yet for that to be like, because so my mom is a first time watcher and reader,
Ooh.
and she's had a lot of questions about, yeah, it's really exciting. She started watching the show and then she's like, okay, I'm going to read the books, and she started reading the books too. And she's not had a lot of questions about that. She's had a lot of Aes Sedai questions, but the Black Dodge has not really come into her purview yet, and so it makes me think that's not a big enough storyline for the audience.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, like,
But you never know.
even just from like a scene standpoint, though, like that's not Bonkers. Like nothing really happens there that's like, oh my god, that's amazing. Can't believe, how did they pull that off? Like I wouldn't see any depiction of that unless they really just hammed it up somehow and made it like it's guarded by 1,000 warders or something.
No, they've played up the strength of the Aes Sedai and the, what's the word I'm looking for? The sanctity almost of the White Tower. Like, this is,
Yeah.
critical. And so that would be a huge turning point for the series, which would expand the world even more.
Like actual fighting on the grounds of the White Tower, and like, yeah, that would be crazy.
Well, and that's how divisive this whole mission that Moiraine and Suan are on really is. Like, this is going to divide the world. People are either, yeah, okay, the dragon's coming to save us, or that guy's crazy, he's going to kill us all.
Yeah.
Like, there's no in between. So
yeah, sorry for anyone who really thought about the Landrian and the Black Tower thing stealing Changrail. We're not trying to rain on your parade, but I just don't think that ranks up there with the coup in the White Tower and the War of Power and Forsaken introductions. I would love to see, if you had to pick one of the Forsaken for it to be like cold open black scene, who we
haven't seen. I don't know. I mean, my favorites are already on the screen.
That's fair.
So my favorite, yeah. Mogideon was my top. I don't know that I have another one.
I think mine would be Asmodean. I would want to see. I just want to see how they're going to do Asmodean, because there's so much, like, especially if they're going to use him like they've used him in the books. I just want to see. I want to see how they depict him, like essentially like, a musician who is this freaking sociopathic, crazy, general, powerful one power channeler. Like, I just want to see how they depict this person, because I've seen so many depictions of him over the years as like, kind of like a flighty, nonchalant, doesn't care about that much stuff person. I've also seen him depicted as like a cold, hard, like serious version of him. Like he's like almost like you imagine like a composer or director of like music. So we
probably need to see more of the men too. I mean, we got so much of Lanfear last season. Maybe we need to bring some of the other.
Samael would be interesting too.
I mean, yeah.
Just this scarred, bearded face.
Doll has always been one of my favorites. I don't know. There's so many. It's such a is there confirmation on who they cut it down to? Have we talked? Okay. See,
No.
that's what makes it hard too.
I mean,
I know we all have theories about.
Yeah, there's some really strong theories, but not like 100%.
Yeah.
There's a couple up there that it's like we don't know for sure, but like probably. I mean, they could make my they could make my dreams come true and just have like Idris Elba on screen and he's Ravine. I would really just
Ravine, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, that would you could just kill me then. I'd be good. Okay, so there's not really much more to go in on the article, but I'm really excited for season 3. One of the things that we know they're going to be doing is going more into the Aiel ways because they talk about the Aiel and the cultures more and how they're diverting from book 3. You know, we've seen in a lot of other articles and stuff. So I'm interested in seeing that too. Very excited about season 3. You know, overall, I'm enjoying this and I'm just interested in seeing how they do things. Like, yeah, they're diverting from the books. Fine. That just means I don't know what they're going to do and I get to discover it.
That's what's that's what makes it so exciting.
As long as the story makes sense and they follow their own rules, like I'm fine with whatever they choose to do as long as it's fun to watch. So I'm just excited to see where they go from there.
Yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun ride for season 3.
All right. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I am excited to talk about all the new things.
And you're going to be seeing a lot more of Crystal now because she's like officially where it's been like she kind of just like we kind of absorbed her by accident from things where it's like she filled in. Then she was like, this was fun. And then I was like, yeah, keep coming. I like your brain and listening to you and talking to you. So
it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I was happy from the beginning. But now like it's like official now from Dragonmount. Like she's like a co-host on the show forever. And now
you're stuck with me. Yay, I'm sorry.
I'm happy.
Sorry about it.
If anyone's upset, they can come talk to me. But yeah, you'll be seeing more from the both of us on the video front. So anytime we see any kind of articles or whatever drop, you'll probably see one or both of our faces. If you've been watching this and you haven't read the books or you want to start reading them and you don't really care about spoilers or you do or whatever, I would say that it's pretty safe bet for you to read up to book 4 before season 2 comes out, and you'll be pretty safe on the spoiler front from the TV show. Everything that we know, they combined a lot of stuff that happened in book 3 into season 2. Most of the minor story points, it was just like a lot of traveling kind of little stuff. They have talked about how they're going to be skipping things and moving them around into things. So based on the way that they've talked about it, it looks like season 3 may heavily lean into book 4. So I would say definitely read through that. So if you want an old book nerd's opinion, that's what I would say. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will catch you next time, and peace. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. This was a ton of fun. This new article gets me just super excited for season 3. I can't wait to see it, and we'll catch you next time.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, please subscribe, hit the like button, give us a thumbs up, or leave us a comment. We love comments, especially positive ones. And if you have any friends that are interested in the Wheel of Time, please share some of our videos with them. And as always, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Tor Books, as well as our amazing Patreon community. And if you are interested in learning about how more of the show is made or some Wheel of Time insights, you too can become a member of the Patreon community. And as always, follow us on Dragonmount with social media. And thank you so much for watching.